Okay, we're now going to talk about properties of arguments. We'll focus on a couple of properties that are especially important. First, an argument can be valid or it can be invalid. If an argument uses a rule correctly, I should say this is a property of a deductive argument. If an argument uses a rule correctly, a deductive rule correctly, then it's valid. If an argument uses a rule correctly, then the premises guarantee the conclusion. Put another way, if an argument uses a rule correctly, then it's impossible for the premises to be true and yet the conclusion false. Or to put it another way, it's impossible for the conclusion to be false given that the premises are true. So if the premises are true, then the conclusion is true. The premises guarantee the conclusion. That's what happens with an argument that's valid. If an argument doesn't use a rule correctly, or it doesn't use a deductive rule, or it misuses a rule, then it's invalid. And to say an argument's invalid is just to say that the premises don't guarantee the conclusion. It's just to say that there is a logical gap between the premises and the conclusion. So one thing you might notice is, if you recall the definition of inductive, abductive, and deductive arguments, I said that for a deductive argument, the premises guarantee the conclusion, whereas for inductive and abductive arguments, the premises only raise the probability of the conclusion. So any inductive or abductive argument is invalid. So saying that an argument's invalid doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. It just means that it's not a good deductive argument. It might be a different kind of argument and still be good. But it does point to something important. When an argument is valid, if you want to reject the conclusion, the only route you can go is to reject a premise, because you just can't reject the inference, because the inference is such that the premises guarantee the conclusion. Whereas if an argument is invalid, you can reject the conclusion even if you accept the premises by saying the conclusion doesn't follow, because there's a gap between the premises and the conclusion. The next distinction is between sound and unsound. To say an argument is sound is to say that it's valid, plus it meets the extra condition that the premises are actually true. So when you say an argument is valid, you're talking about the logical structure. You're saying it has good logical structure. When you're saying it's invalid, you're saying it doesn't have good logical structure. When you say an argument is sound, you say not only does it have good logical structure, but in addition to having good logical structure, it has true premises. And when you say an argument is unsound, you're saying either it's invalid, so it doesn't use a rule correctly, or it has a false premise. So to say an argument is unsound is to say it goes wrong in some way or other, maybe by having a false premise, maybe by having a bad inference. To say an argument is invalid is to say it has a bad inference. So unsound is neutral between the two different ways an argument can go wrong. It's saying it goes wrong in one of those ways, maybe I won't tell you which. Whereas invalid means it goes wrong in the particular way that it has a bad inference. Okay, so sound is valid plus something else, plus true premises. Okay. Now, if you haven't done the exercise on validity and soundness yet, you should go ahead and do that now. If you're in class, you did it in class, but if you haven't done it, you should stop the video after this video and go do the exercise on recognizing valid and invalid arguments and sound and unsound arguments. So I'll stop this there. Well, I'll stop this there and we'll continue in another video next time.